Dr. Matt here. Today what I want to answer for you is I commonly get asked, does the FDA approve regenerative medicine? And the answer is no, they don't approve regenerative medicine. So what does that mean if the FDA doesn't approve it? Well, it really doesn't mean much at all. And here's why, because the FDA approves drugs. Regenerative medicine and cellular therapy is not a drug, so they don't approve it. But it is regulated, and it's actually regulated by the American tissue banks and the American blood banks. The FDA also will regulate many of the labs that process the stem cells, and they regulate how these cells are processed, because if they become more than minimally manipulated or they're used for things that they're not approved with, then it could be considered a drug. So depending on how the provider uses it and depending on how the laboratory will actually manipulate or process that product, will it be determined whether the FDA regulates it or not. So if it's not more than minimally manipulated, then the FDA doesn't need to regulate it. It's just regulated by the American tissue banks and the American blood banks. So a question I often get then is, does that mean it's not safe? And the answer is no. So with regenerative medicine, when you compare the statistics with regenerative medicine compared to the statistics of, say, cortisone or anti-inflammatories, the statistics and the safety record of regenerative medicine is far safer, and it's a far more progressive approach than just treating the symptoms and treating the disease. So is the FDA regulating things? Yes, kind of. They clear the processes to how these are. Yes, they're looking over it, but these are not considered a drug, so they don't technically get the stamp of approval from the FDA because it's simply just not a drug. So hopefully that kind of answers that question for you a little bit, and you have a little better understanding of whether the FDA approves or clears the procedure. And yes, the FDA absolutely clears regenerative medicine. It's just not approval because it's not a drug.